Well, it's World Suicide Prevention Day, and this year Beyond Blue has released a video featuring personal stories from those who've lived through a suicidal crisis.
You feel like you're a burden to everyone because of the way you feel.
Suicidal thoughts particularly want you to be alone.
I knew I wanted the pain to go away, but I didn't want to die.
I put my hand up and said, "Please help me." And those three words changed everything.
And that was the part that every now and then would come into my head and say, you know, George, there is hope, there is something out there.
I felt those really heavy weights just lift off my body.
You are, and I am more than my depression. I am many things.
I want you to live.
Well, on average, 8 people die by suicide in Australia every day, and there's concern the pandemic is taking an extra toll on many people's mental health. For more, Beyond Blue Chair and former Prime Minister Julia Gillard joins us now from Adelaide. Good morning and welcome to breakfast.
Good morning, Lisa.
It's quite chilling, really, watching those clips and thinking that those people mightn't have been with us, given other circumstances. It's amazing that they're brave enough to tell their story.
We are incredibly grateful at Beyond Blue that these 8 Australians were brave enough to tell their stories, and we feel a real sense of responsibility in getting these stories out to the community. And we're doing it for a purpose, and that's to reinforce that you can talk about suicide. Lots of people think that if someone is in distress and you have a conversation with them and you use the word suicide, that you might make it more likely that they will take their own lives. In fact, the research shows, and the lived experience of people who have been in suicidal distress shows us that if you can have a caring, supportive conversation at the right moment, that can make all the difference. So we are asking people to talk about suicide.
Some of the statistics are, just so sad that 75% of those who take their own life are male, that suicide's the leading cause of death for Australians between the age of 15 and 44. I know that this program was planned before the coronavirus took hold across the world, but what kind of impact has COVID had, do you think, on the trends that we might see?
To date, we haven't seen an increase in suicide statistics. Very recently, the Victorian coroner released the statistics for this year up until the end of August, and there isn't an increase on the same period last year. So we haven't seen a major disturbing new trend yet, but we don't know what the future holds, and that's why it reinforces that each of us needs to think about how we would recognise signs that someone was starting to get to the stage that they were imagining leaving this world, and what we can do if someone in our lives is in those circumstances. And our advice is, if someone is in acute distress, stay with them and call the emergency services. If someone is acting in a way that is not normal, they're not sleeping, maybe bursts of anger, maybe talking about giving away expensive possessions, not doing things that used to give them joy in life, then you can have a very direct conversation about whether or not that person is contemplating suicide. And if they are, then get them, if you can, to reach out for help, whether that's through Lifeline, Beyond Blue, going to a local GP, reaching out to some other form of mental health service and support. That responsibility is on all of us.
It's great that we haven't seen an increase in the numbers, but there's been a lot of discussion about whether the lockdown and the curfews and the restrictions in Victoria in particular, because they have dragged on, might end up being not worth the effort that has gone into it. What do you think about that?
Well, we're certainly seeing increased mental health needs and service-seeking behaviour, which in many ways is a good thing. It tells us that people are reaching out for support when they need it. From Beyond Blue's perspective, when we do our comparisons with last year, we're routinely 40% up, 60% up in the numbers of people who are reaching out to our coronavirus wellbeing support service and our usual support service, or who are getting online online, getting in our chat rooms, seeking support that way. So we do know that there's a lot of pressure out there. I mean, obviously, all of this is being done to deal with the health crisis and to try and meet the challenges of COVID-19. But at the same time as we do that, we have been stepping up, and so has the whole mental health sector, to try and provide more ways of people getting assistance. And it's the pressures of lockdown, the loneliness that comes with that, but it's also the financial distress when people have lost jobs, and jobs are, of course, our security in the sense of bringing a pay packet in, but jobs often mean a lot more than that to people. They give them a sense of purpose in life. So the loss of that can be very telling.
Now, speaking of jobs, your misogyny speech has been on heavy replay, especially in the UK, given the appointment of Tony Abbott now as an advisor to the British government. Do you think that that speech, given that so many people, I know you've been interviewed in the UK about it, that it had any impact on people making the decision about Tony Abbott?
Well, I'd have to leave that judgment to others. Yes, the speech has been getting a fair old outing in the United Kingdom. And, you know, I stand by that speech. I'm obviously proud of that speech, and I'm very proud of the fact that many women, including young women, have used it in their lives as their own kind of personal battle anthem. But I'm not in the business of commenting on what Tony Abbott might do next in his life.
We have run out of time, unfortunately. Julia Gillard, thank you, though, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Lisa.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing distress, you can contact Beyond Blue on 1300 22 4636 or Lifeline on 13 11 14.